I don't want any interruptions.
Okay, I believe we are now recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome to DC Shorts Summer Chills Filmmakers Talkback. I'm Peter Morgan, the Executive Director of DC Shorts. Thank you all for being here, and we'll begin in just a moment with DC Shorts board member Christian O moderating a panel of amazing filmmakers that are part of Summer Chills. But first, I want to mention that DC Shorts International Film Festival, September 10th through the 23rd, tickets will be on sale by August 17th. So be on the lookout for that. Christian, take it away.
Thank you, Peter. And again, applause to you for putting this program together. It's an amazing program. I had the pleasure of seeing all the films. And with us today, I'm going to introduce each of you. And if you guys could say a few words after I introduce you about you and about the film. But I'm going to start with ladies first, with Carlota Pereda, director of Cerdita. It was an amazing film. I really enjoyed your film. So Carlota, if you would say a few words about yourself.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for inviting us for these DC Shorts in the summer. Well, I'm a filmmaker from Spain. I live in Madrid. I've been working in TV for a long time, but I started to make short films only 4 years ago because I wanted to make my own stories. So, wait, I don't want to say anything about Cerdita, only that I hope it really perturbs you when you watch it.
Thank you. Next, we have the wonderful producer duo for Hearth, Sophie, Ricard-Harvey, and Charlotte. Forgive me, my French is terrible. Beaudoin-Poisson. From Canada. Again, I loved your film as well. I loved all your films, by the way. I'm going to say it individually, but it was, again, a pleasure to have you guys in the festival. So if both Sophie and Charlotte, if you would say a few words about yourself.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, so Charlotte and I are a team of producers of All Film is our company. We did Sophie, the director, was not able to be here, but we did this film in last January, at the end of the...
2 years ago.
Yeah. And we had 2 days of shooting. It was really a big... I'm French, so it was a big challenge to do this movie. It had a lot of, with the temporalities in it and, the staging of the film, but she did really a good job. We're really happy about it. We'll make more, and that's about it.
Anything you wanted to add, Charlotte?
No, we'll wait for the question because it's, okay. I think it's a movie that can bring funny questions with funny stories. Great. But yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Yeah.
No problem. Next, we have Ian Hunt Duffy, director of Low Tide. I have some really interesting questions about that film because of it being on the water and in the water. So we'll get to that later. But Ian, welcome. By all means, introduce yourself formally and tell us a little about yourselves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ian Hunt Duffy. I'm a filmmaker from Dublin in Ireland. So thanks for having me here today. My last short as well was in DC Short, so it's a great festival. I'm glad to have Low Tide back in it as part of the Summer Chills. Low Tide is a kind of coming of age nightmare. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested in genre filmmaking. My previous film was a thriller, and I am working on my first feature film, which is a horror thriller. So yeah, so
you've been pegged, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But no, but yeah.
All right, moving on to Santiago Mangini, director of Milk. Again.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for inviting me. It's just an awesome opportunity to meet all of you as well as the filmmakers. It's quite nice. So thank you for this opportunity for that. My film is Milk. It's a short little film about a kid who goes down for a glass of milk and then all these disturbing things happen. It's quite simple in its idea. Originally, about myself, is I live in Montreal, but I'm originally from Brazil. I have an Argentinian background. So it's a bit of a mix. I've always moved around my whole life. So this film kind of deals with some things that were related to that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me in the film. loose.
Whoop.
I think we lost Christian.
Sorry about that, guys. I had technical difficulties. That was very strange. I was talking, and then all of you froze, and I thought, is it them or is it me? And then I realized it's me. But I don't know. I've been having some broadband issues here where I live. By the way, I didn't formally introduce myself. Again, Cristiano, board member in the Washington, D.C. area. I've been with DC Shorts since the beginning, since the inception, pretty much. And so I'm also a budding filmmaker. Do a lot of shorts, music videos, stuff like that. So sorry, I missed Santiago's.
Yeah. Would you like me to go at it again?
We already recorded it, right?
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So again, welcome, Santiago. Like I said, I'm very excited that you are here. So again, we'll be getting into the discussion here. Last but not least, we have Evan Powers from the director of Pig, and I really loved how you captured me at the first couple of minutes and then flipped it on its head with the film. And I don't want to spoil it for those who have not seen it, but Pig, the director of Pig, please, Evan, if you would.
Yes, hi, thanks for having me. Again, this was like an incredible program. So all of you guys, congrats, because all your movies are pretty amazing. So I just feel good to be a part of it. Mine's a little bit different in tone. I think it's a little bit more of a comedy than a horror, but I like to think of it as like a comedy living in horror's clothes rather than a horror comedy. But it's,
that's good.
Yeah, the whole idea was just to subvert as many tropes as we possibly could and see if we couldn't make people feel a little bit bad for psychopathic killers, which is not something that normally happens. So hopefully that works. Again, I don't want to spoil it either for those who haven't seen it yet, but I live in Los Angeles, originally from the Midwest in the US. Yeah, just trying to make it happen, as everybody is.
Hey, Evan, where originally in the Midwest? Just curious.
From Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, okay, Ohio. I used to live in Cleveland. Originally, when I came to this country, we ended up in Ames, Iowa, of all places. There were like no Asian people, like 1,000 miles radius from us, so we were the only ones. But again, welcome. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to start, again, I don't want to give too much away of all of your films because there's probably a lot of people that have not seen it yet. But I guess the first question I'll start off with is being a short film, short meaning shorts filmmaker, what do you think were the biggest challenges? And don't say money, because everybody says money, right? But what was one of the biggest challenges in making each of your films? And I know, Sophie, you hinted at it that it was challenging, so we'll get to you first. What was really difficult for you guys in terms of creating your film, Hearth? So
this was really the main challenge. It was the staging of it because we're actually into temporalities. So it was really a big challenge for Sophie to be able to, because in the same shot we switch. So we had the whole team always, we had to be on time and be really slick about that. So it was really a big challenge. And we had so little time to do the short because of different, So that was the main challenge for this one. She had to be really prepared before. She talked about a lot with the editor of the film also before to make sure that she would have all the tools to be able to do it the best on shoot. Mm-hmm. So I think this was the main challenge for this one, because we not only go only once in the two temporalities, we go a multiple time, and then start to, I don't want to say too much either, but still. Right. So this was a really big challenge for her.
I have to say, I love the apartment. I guess it was an apartment or
yeah, it was more kind of house, very particular house.
The apartment, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I love that. I love the choice of your, not just the locale, but the lighting and the shadows and all that. That was really well done. So, all right, without saying anything more, I'm going to move on to Carlota. Carlota, what was your biggest challenge? Again, I thought your actress was amazing, by the way. She was incredible. So what were some of your difficulties? And then plus the being outdoors and being on that location. I was just curious, what were some of your hardest hardships?
Well, the biggest problem was actually finding the actress. I wrote the screenplay, and it took me 2 years to cast the main actress.
Wow.
Because I knew exactly how I wanted to shoot it, and I didn't want to make compromises because the actress couldn't do it, and I didn't want to put a teenagers through a horrible situation just to shoot it the way I wanted to do it. So I did a lot of castings to find the right actress. She had to be good, and she had to have the guts as well to do it.
No, I was going to say the bravery that she had to put on to, what's the word, to expose herself in such a way, not just physically, but also emotionally. I just was like, wow. So.
And in the end, I found her. She's 31 years old, actually. And she plays a 16-year-old girl. Mm-hmm. And at first I was really scared because I thought, well, maybe it's going to end up like, Greece, when 40-year-olds pretend to be teenagers and nobody believes it. But she was so good in the camera test that, I knew she could do it. And it also gave me a lot of liberty because we could talk the same language. We knew exactly what we were doing and why we were doing it. So it was fantastic. Actually, we're going to make the film, and it's going to be with her as well. A feature.
No, fantastic. We'll go to Evan, and then I'll go to Ian, and then Santiago. So Evan, as you mentioned, it was more of a comedic sort of attempt. I really loved your film. I really loved the music. I really loved the sort of the monologue that he goes into. I don't want to give it away, but again, what was your biggest challenge in creating this film for you?
Well, logistics are always very difficult when, again, you're on a low budget. I know you don't want us to talk about, but I think aside from logistically challenging situations, finding the right location was difficult. The original story called for kind of a cabin in the woods type thing, which is either very expensive and doesn't really exist within the kind of greater Los Angeles area, surprisingly, at least for, and, non-studio style shoots. So finding something that fit all those boxes was difficult, but once we found it, we kind of knew immediately it was perfect. And then, just little things here and there, like during shooting, it was my first time shooting a 4-person dialogue scene around a table, which seems very simple, but it's actually like pretty complicated. And we lost one of the 4 characters for like 4 hours in the middle of shooting that scene because he had to go do a commercial that he was already cast in, that they like added an extra day. So we basically couldn't do, we had to kind of sacrifice some of the techniques we wanted to do in terms of like shooting over the shoulders because we didn't have his shoulder to dirty the frame and things like that. So, we had to have somebody else reading his lines while we were shooting coverage of other people. So it just became very complicated and hoping that it would cut together seamlessly, which I think it did, but it was, I think that was probably the most complicated thing. That, and we also had like a Saint Bernard dog living in that house in the attic while we were shooting. It was like trotting along.
They always say the hardest thing to manage are children and animals.
The guys who own the house refused to take it.
I love the music also as well in your film. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a friend of mine did all the music, Ian Vargo. He did all the kind of original score and stuff. And then I had the lead actor, his girlfriend was actually a music supervisor, and she helped find that final song for the credits, which I think is kind of a perfect button.
Agreed. All right, moving to Ian. Ian, I already mentioned earlier that you did a lot of water scenes. So other than, I'm sure that was challenging in its own right, but what else was really difficult for you on this film?
Well, you just mentioned it there yourself. They say you should never work with children and animals, and we had both on a boat on water and a night shoot. So we were a little bit crazy taking it on at the time. I'm surprised that when the Irish Film Board at Screen Ireland are the funders of it, I thought when we submitted the script they would just say, no, it can't be done, but they were like, yeah, fine, go ahead. So then we just had to figure out how to actually do it. So yeah, on the boat was tricky just for space. Like we didn't have the budget or the means to have like a follow boat that we would be able to film from. The crew was on the boat with the actors, so we had to, it was a tight space to work on, and we couldn't go too far out from the shore. So we'd have to, the boat would be rotating around and then you could see land again. So we'd have to kind of wait to kind of give the impression that there was, that we're out there at horizon. And some crew got seasick.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, we were all taking seasickness tablets. Some people didn't have their sea legs, so they got sick, and we got sunburnt. It's unusual to be sunny in Ireland, so we didn't put on any sunblock, and we all got sunburnt. And then then I suppose the most difficult part, though, that was kind of fun, like challenges, was dealing with the dog. Getting the dog to do any kind of basic tasks was a time suck. It was surprisingly easy to get the dog to be angry and growling, but to do the playful stuff or to walk, very basically across the screen took hours. It was challenging but fun when we got it done, I suppose.
Well, I'll tell you, Ian, the end result looked great. So again, kudos to you.
Thanks very much.
All right, Santiago. I really loved your concept of this film. Even with the title, Milk, and then realizing what it was about. But again, without giving away too much, what was your biggest issues or obstacles?
Well, yeah, I think I kind of have to talk a little bit about the concept of the film to be able to talk about the challenges. So the first one, I kind of two. The first is the casting. I have a young kid, and then I have like a young teenager and a mom, and I really wanted them to really work together and work well. So casting for the kid was particularly difficult. It was just I needed someone just at the right age, where they were just about to become like a little bit more mature and a little bit older, and just at that cusp of that awkwardness. I think that was the key. So I went through quite a long casting process just on the kid, and I quickly realized that I needed to focus on the kid first and then the mother second, because he sort of would dictate a lot of if the film would work. So that was a big challenge, and there were some actresses that were absolutely amazing to play the mother, and we had to pass because of the fact that we had to focus so much on the kid. So that pairing became a really difficult challenge. And then the second one was the location. Originally, the concept of the film has to do with like a polarity in the scene, where you have one character in one side of the room and another in the opposite, with the main kid in the middle. And the location required the space to do it. So finding this house that we had in the film proved to be really difficult. I thought it was going to be quite easy to just find a kitchen, but I need a kitchen with a hallway to the side, and then a living room in the back and a bedroom. And I quickly realized there were only so many houses I could go and see. In the end, we spent I think 3 months just going to house after house after house. And we lucked out where we found a house that was going to be demolished, and we were able to go in and just redecorate everything, change the rooms. And we got really lucky because it was the perfect set, because you could bang up on the walls, you could do anything you wanted, and no one cared. So it was sort of a huge luxury that came just out of the need of finding the perfect place. So we got kind of lucky there, but that was a big challenge.
Fantastic. Again, it looked great with the end result. So, all right. Well, my next question is about genre, and I really want to know. First of all, why horror? Why did you guys put or thriller / horror? The suspense of it all. What I guess what I'm asking is, what influenced you on this film based off of your own fears? What are you most scared about? And then how did you incorporate that into each of your films? All right. Or is it something, I'm going to start with Evan, because I have a feeling that Evan's answer is going to be a little different, because I saw that there was, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I saw an homage to, camper thriller slasher type of films. And then you totally just flipped it on its head. So I want to know first of all, so it's a two-part question. What scares you the most, or what do you have fears about? And how did that influence your film? So Evan.
Sure. Yeah. So I always think that the scariest stuff is the stuff that lives within our own heads, right? So, it's not necessarily monsters, it's the idea of a monster and what a monster means. So I think that also translates to real world insecurities and neuroses, and that's kind of something that's I've always been really interested in, especially in the comedy world, is neurotic people who are very in their heads and things like that. And so I think that's what drew me to this idea, because the original idea was written by a co-writer of mine, Bryce McGuire, and just the idea was so funny to me that a killer would have real world personal issues that they're trying to deal with in the midst of their work, which is slashing people up. So I think that's I guess kind of the crux of the idea, is that it's perhaps the scariest stuff is the stuff living within you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer?
No, I like that. I like that, Evan. That's a great answer. Great answer. All right, Sophie and Charlotte, what scares you guys the most, and how did that influence in your film? I don't want to point out the obvious about body image and stuff like that, but I want to know what really sort of are you fearful of, you know? So.
We can talk also a little bit for the directors, because like she was inspired by some experience, but actually, well, there's two things. First things is that I can't say that it's the thing that scares her the most, but when you start to think like at the place where you are right now, or the place where you live, and you start to imagine like all the stories that could happen in those places, like if the walls could talk, there's a lot of things that can like come out in your mind. And the director Sophie was actually really renting her apartment through an application that we won't name, but at some point she was like looking at the like next maybe clients, and she saw this like the picture of this couple that looked a little bit like odd or weird, and she started to imagine like what could be the worst, and then she came up with this idea. But Sophie's relationship to genre is like, I think it's a love, not a love story, but like I think she likes to exactly not doing so graphic horror movie, and to include some black humor inside, but very subtle. She's a woman of not a lot of words, and she likes when it's like mixing a little bit the genre, but not too much, so you can make your own imagination. I don't know.
Yeah, I misspoke earlier. I was actually pertaining to Carlota, but what I loved about the film of Hearth is that you're right. I always wonder when I'm in a hotel room, or when I'm borrowing a rental car, what stories or what happened in that hotel room prior to me, or the rental car, who else drove it, what was the personality, the psyche. I get a little existential there with that, but it always makes me wonder what things that I don't know, you know. And you know, Evan mentioned our fear is really within our own imagination. That can happen with, especially what you guys try to portray in Hearth. I thought that was really well done. Sophie, did you have anything else you wanted to add by chance?
No, it's kind of in the same way, you know, like she said, if walls could talk, the thing that Sophie did with this one is imagine the worst instead of imagining, you know, what beautiful could happen. So she thought about, oh my God, I never thought about that really before. Like what could happen? We give our keys to people that we don't know and stuff like that. So it's kind of, you can go really far with this idea of, but yeah, that's what's charmed us as producers, as like we said, oh my God, this is such a good thing. And that makes you think about a lot of things actually.
Agreed. So now the question of body image and stuff like that. Carlota, what was, I guess there's so much, you know, there's even fear of sharing. And I feel like, you know, for myself, you know, sometimes we don't want to share certain things, whether it be mental, physical, whatever it may be, because of fear of ridicule, fear of whatever, bullying, fear of whatever it may be. I was just curious, how did you, what was the inspiration behind the story, or what was the fear behind the story that really set you down this path?
Well, actually, I always wanted to make a movie about bullying because it's something that really scares me. I mean, I love genre movies. I love horror. I really love it. But I want to make horror that was based on real stories, you know, something that could really happen. And my first idea was doing about homophobia. Mm-hmm. But one day I was in a pool, the same pool where I brought the short and where I shot it. And I was all on my own because it was really hot, one of those really hot summers in Spain, you know, when there's no one around, everybody's having a siesta, but I was there. And there was also this teenage girl who always went at the same time on her own. And I started wondering why she did that, no? Why there was no one around. And I realized it was because of her body, that she didn't want anyone to see it. And it made me so sad And so, yeah, and then I started thinking, well, you know, when glossophobia, with body image, there's no escape, you know. I'm a bisexual woman, but I was in the closet in my teens. So for me, there was an escape because I could hide in my, you know, heterosexuality. But for this girl, there's no way to hide. So I went from there on. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Ian and Santiago, I'll start with Ian, but both of you guys, both of your films, the connection I see is parental. And so I want to start with Ian. Was that something from an experience or something that you heard? I mean, what was, you know, because we all have, I don't want to call them horror stories, but we all have issues with our parents. So I was just curious how you know, what first of all, what you're scared of and what motivated you to tell this story. So.
Yeah, no, it's not from a personal experience with my father, but no, I think what scares me, like my favorite horror film is The Shining, and while that's obviously got supernatural elements in it, the scariest bit for me is about a father going crazy, turning on his family, you know, to kind of breaking down that trusted familial bond. So I always love that idea, like of a father, or, you know, that as a scary idea of a father turning on his family. So I was talking about that with the writer Derek on this, and we're talking about doing different ideas about childhood and loss of innocence, really. Like, so that's kind of where Low Tide came about, that, you know, when you're a child, joy can turn to terror at the drop of a hat, and, you know, you're supposed to look up to your dad for safety, but if he's, you know, turning against you, it can be quite scary. So that was kind of the inspiration for Low Tide.
Fantastic. What about you, Santiago?
Yeah, I got to share a little bit on that. I think there's an element in the film where very much goes to the idea, what about someone you deeply trust and go to for help turns against you? I think that was a big aspect of the short. But I think that for me, at least at its core, I'd say probably the loss of control in some way would probably be the biggest fear. I know that sounds kind of general, but, you know, it could be of self, or it could be of any situation. I think the classic example is the idea of people who are fight or flying. You know, you're not behind the plane, you're sitting and trusting this idea that you're going to get on a plane is going to land you somewhere. So I think that's at its root. And then for the film, for me, it was a little bit personal, but it was not the way that you might think with the short. The short's quite extreme, but what happened for me was I was visiting my parents in Brazil, and I only see them every 2 years or so, like in person. So it's like always a long kind of visit, and I miss them very much. And I'm one of 5 kids. So when I went to visit my parents, I was just one of the 5 that were there with them. And one night I actually went downstairs for a glass of water in the middle of the night, and I found my mother just sitting there, huddled on the corner in the dark on the phone. And she was calling my sister who lives in Japan. And she was talking because the time difference was the only time she could talk to her. And I thought it was very creepy and unsettling that my mom would just be sitting in the dark at the phone. And it sort of, that sparked the film, but it was also the conversation she was having and her attempt to reconnect with her daughter on the other side of the world who hasn't seen for so long. And just the longing of kind of keeping the kids home and just trying to like grasp at the kids that have all left home. And that was sort of the root where I was like, there is something there that I really want to touch on. And that was sort of the germ for the film. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. That's awesome. My next question goes to, because you guys are all shorts filmmakers. I always, you know, whenever we do DC shorts and whenever we have filmmakers come out from all over, I always say, is your intention with this film encapsulated, meaning it's by itself what it is and you want to leave it there? Or are you trying to create, and you may have heard this before, but I want to take credit that I coined this. Is it a trailer-mercial, meaning it's a trailer / commercial for something bigger? Do you have an idea that would sort of be seeded from this short film to make something like a feature film or a documentary or whatever it may be, a series? I mean, again, what is your intent with this particular short? I mean, again, I know Sophie and Charlotte, you guys are producers, so you can't really tell me the mind of the director, but I'm just curious, where do you see this going? Or is it in itself just a separate encapsulated project? I'm done with that, I'm moving on. Or is it a trailer-mercial, not only for the film itself, but for you as a producer slash director for something bigger. So I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to start with Ian first.
I wouldn't say it's a trailer commercial. I love that phrase, by the way. Trailer commercial for like a bigger version of Low Tide, but it was certainly a statement of intent in terms of a step up in production value for me compared to the short prior to this. So you know, that's why I guess we welcomed those challenges of, okay, we're going to shoot on a boat, we're going to shoot at night, we're going to shoot with a kid, we're going to shoot with a dog, just to show that we can achieve. So the feature film that I'm working on now that's in development isn't related to Low Tide, but I think Low Tide can definitely help sell what we can achieve, you know.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Santiago?
I think my situation is quite unique, and I'm very fortunate for my current circumstances. But originally when I came up with the short, it was its own thing. And I mean that as clearly as possible. It's a short with a very simple concept. And once you see the short, you understand that it's sort of almost, in its core sense, a scene within itself.
Right.
But from making the short, I was able to adapt it slowly into a film. And right now I have an option deal with New Line Cinema to make it into a film. So yeah, it's essentially the short got picked up, and it was sort of a whole process behind the scenes, but I was very fortunate to get the right people to see it. And it was kind of a surprise kind of journey for that film that I never would have thought possible when I first came up with it.
That's
well,
great.
Congratulations. And again, being a short film maker myself, sometimes we don't think about the potential ripple or repercussions of what we've created. So I'm always curious. That's why I love talking to other filmmakers as to the intent and the potential progression of what you've created. Carlota, you mentioned that you are going to be working with the actress again in something in the future. So that happens too. When you work with great people, whether it be the director, the filmmaker, the cinematographer, whatever, it can parlay into something else. So Carlota, what about you? How did you originally envision Cerdita?
It was a bit like Santiago's. You know, my idea was to make this short. I was actually working on developing a feature with a producing company, but I came up with this idea and I thought I had to do it. And saying, no, you cannot make another short. And say, yes, I want to tell this story. So when I wrote it, my idea was just to make a short. But then you fell in love with the characters, you know, and then I realized, well, this girl has a really strong conflict and there's so much to tell about her. So yeah, right now I'm working with a production company in Spain, which is called Morena Films, and we're trying to shoot the movie, actually a feature based on Cerdita. And we were going to shoot this September, but now all this didn't happen, and of course we have to wait another year.
Right.
So we'll see. And I made another short with Laura as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Sophie and Charlotte, what about you guys? Or what do you think the director's intent, or where do you think this might be going?
I think it's kind of the same of all of the other guys. That first, it was really a good idea for short. It was, what we're looking for in a short is actually one idea really well executed, and so I think this was really the main intent for this film. But one of the comments also that we saw that we had with this film is that people was like, oh my God, I wanted more. I could have more. And I think there's so many stories that could be told within that, So I think there's place for a feature for sure in this movie. I think this idea was really nice for a short film, but I think you can tell so many stories in that kind of format, and you can let your imaginations go. So I think there's really place also for a feature. We'll talk about that in the future maybe and stuff like that. But we really like this one for this idea, but there's so many things that we can say that it's so possible to make a feature with this idea.
Charlotte, anything you want to add?
But I just agree that in doing a short film, I think for me, it's good when it's made to be a short film, because it has his own identity. But after that, it's true that it's always a question of opportunity. So I think that if the film is seen by the good person, or if there's an opportunity of trying to think about it for a feature, you will have the answer by itself. If it's not made to be a feature, I think you will stop developing the feature very quickly. So yeah.
That's a great point. Fantastic point. Evan, what about you?
Yeah, I never saw it as anything more than this. Ours is, it's kind of like a joke, really. It's like one punchline. So, that being said, I've been asked quite a bit since we did the festival thing and all that, whether or not there was a feature version of it. I never really thought there would be or should be. I kind of agree with them that, I like shorts that are very standalone, but I think there's something about the world of it that's fun. The world of sentimental killers is kind of an interesting thing. So I've been thinking about things here and there, but I also, I have a bunch of other ideas that I'm writing with somebody else that are completely outside of the box. But I do like the idea of, comedy, horror, blending genres and things like that. So whatever we do is definitely going to be somewhere in that world, I think, like heightened.
No, I agree with you. I have to tell you guys a little anecdote or story of mine. I was doing a internship out in LA for one of the, it was for Universal, but I remember going to a party and meeting Jared Hess. If you know that name, he is the filmmaker behind Napoleon Dynamite. And there is a story that he hasn't, I don't know if I've seen it in print anywhere, but if you guys may not know this, originally that was a short, and MTV picked it up and said, we need to make this into a feature-length film. And when I met him at the party, he said he felt like, and I think it goes back to what Charlotte talks about, opportunity. He felt like he won the lottery. He was like, oh my gosh, my short, they want to make it into a feature-length film, and I've got all this music licensing and all this stuff that MTV is going to be utilizing in the film. And so it was a rare opportunity for him, and then it launched his career as a feature-length filmmaker. So I totally agree. Sometimes we don't think about, like I said, the parameters or the ripple effects or the repercussions that a short film will play on us. I also had the opportunity to work on a genre fusion type of film. It was a zombie rom-com, believe it or not. It was a romantic comedy that had zombieism in the whole crux of the film. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future. I think because people want fresh, new, again, nothing's ever really new, but better content out there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to happen. So again, I appreciate you guys sharing all of your perspectives on this. The next question, because I think we've got about 20 minutes more to go, but the next question that I really want to sort of focus on is, were there anything that was really, really sort of mind-blowing for you on the production of this film, whether it had to do with the shoot or the casting? I mean, I know Carlota already mentioned about casting, and so did a couple of others of you, but maybe in pre-production or post-production that was like, wow, I did not realize this was going to happen, or it hit you and you're like, because I've had that happen to me as a filmmaker, like whether it be post-production or pre-production or during the shoot, where something happened, you're like, I did not expect that. I was not, so. I'll start with Carlota, actually, because of your casting. Taking 2 years to do casting, that's tough, so. Well,
actually it was, yeah, I think it all goes to the casting, when you decide, you really, well, the thing is I had to find first Laura, the lead actress, because her age will determine the rest of the cast. I couldn't cast younger girls if she was going to be older. So the thing is, when I first went, I didn't know if the story was going to work, really, because it was just something that I made myself, and then I got a few other people convinced to shoot.
Right.
So when I had Laura casted, I went to Barcelona to do a rehearsal with the other girls. And I didn't want all of them together at the same time. I didn't want Laura with the girls. I wanted to keep that for the shooting. So I went there and tell, you have to start abusing me verbally and say things to me. And just the way I felt that my blood froze when they started saying stuff like this, I said, this is going to be powerful, because it made me feel so bad that I realized that if people could just feel just a tiny bit of what I felt in that moment, that the story was going to work. So from then on, it was very smooth. the camera broke, all the things that happened. But everything was smooth. Everything was very smooth, and the cast was great, and the team was great, and the rest went on smoothly after that. Yeah.
So it almost feels like, because I've had a similar situation where I shot a music video, and even though this woman had never had any major acting training or anything, I felt like I was watching a birth of a potential star. So I think am I correct in assuming that's what you felt when seeing her in action? And then
yeah, absolutely. And she's fantastic. I mean, she can do anything.
That's great. That's great. All right, Evan, what about you? What was that eureka moment or anything that really resonated with you throughout your production process?
I don't know if there was a eureka moment in the process. I discussed how difficult the location was, and a couple of those shooting things, which happens on every single shoot ever. So my situation was not unique at all. I think for me the big thing was not knowing if the turn would work. So you watch the movie, that it's kind of two halves. The first half is one thing, the second half is another thing. I had no idea whether or not it was going to work when people are watching it, whether they would start laughing or be confused or what. So it was really like the first time watching it with an audience that had no idea who I was, what the movie was about or anything. And then right when that turn happens and you see his reflection in the window and they started laughing, it was like that was kind of the biggest thing, because if they didn't laugh at that point, you were kind of screwed. So I was pretty lucky. And I don't know if everybody does, people may not, but that particular audience did. And it kind of proved, I think, that it at least worked for some people.
No, I think it's, as all of us as filmmakers, I think having that validation sort of really, really, sort of moves you is what I for me anyway. So, Santiago, what about you?
It's a bit of an odd thing, but what happened for me, I have a visual effects background, so I should start off by saying this because it's going to affect my answer. What happened was we were looking for this house for so long, and I got to the point where I like to storyboard. I like to plan my films. I think when it comes to the way I like to do my type of horror is I like to be pretty meticulous about how the pace and beat and when things happen and how they happen. I try to be very intentional with how the camera moves and all that. So I had all this work done, and then we had a location before we found the right one, and we just didn't work out. We couldn't shoot, and I had about a month or about a couple of weeks to wait for another one or find another location. And during that time, I was just very eager, so I started playing around with doing kind of a pre-visualization of my film. And I ended up doing an actual short animatic of just the basic blocking of the character in what would look like the location we were interested in, which was that house at the time. And then quickly I started realizing I would have made a lot of mistakes, and I started eliminating shots. I started cutting around things. I'm like, I actually don't need to do that. And it became sort of a eureka moment, to go, wow, I'm saving a lot of money in production because we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't have to get that crazy camera equipment that I thought I needed. And immediately we just cut the budget down. We managed to save a lot of time on just prep. Sitting with the director of photography, I was just talking about okay, well, I want to do this kind of movement. He's like, great, that can be done. We know the place, no problem. And he got to focus more time on lighting, got to focus more time on creating that right look and feel for the film as opposed to just trying to figure it out in the moment. We got to do that in his couch, relaxing with a beer. It was very simple and fun. And I thought that kind of was a eureka moment for me, where whenever possible, I would want to pre-visualize any key set pieces of my films. And I think that's moving forward. I ended up making another short horror film, and I did the same process, and it was so invaluable that I would recommend it to anybody who has the patience or a friend who might be capable in the computer. It's quite a powerful tool. So that was a eureka moment for me.
That's incredible. That's actually very solid advice. Pre-planning, you all know pre-production is hard, and making sure you've got everything that you need. Sometimes you forget things. Sometimes things get omitted. Trust me, I've been there. So great, solid advice there. Sophie and Charlotte, what about you? What was an enlightenment moment or anything that you guys took away from this? So.
Well, actually, overall, everything went like very smoothly, if I can say. But it was like there was not like a particular moment that we that we experienced, but it was just like an accumulation of small little like things. And it was like it's not about money, but for us, it's like part of our job to do more when it's like auto-financed movie. So I just remember because we had only 2 days of shooting because everyone was like a freebie, like doing their giving the time and everything. And the second day we were supposed to finish at 1 in the morning. In the end it was like 5 in the morning, and Sophie and I were like going to take back to give back the equipment the next morning. And I just remember a moment where Sophie and I just called and, why are we doing this? Like, why it's so like intense. And then when we screened it for the first time, we just looked at this and like, this is why we're doing it, this is why we're, even if we say that we will stop low budget thing, but it's always like a question of like being passionate. And yeah, we were still doing it, and it's for that reason. So I think but nothing like very big. It's just like a accumulation of little things that happen to every shoot anyway. But yeah.
Great.
We were really tired, you know.
Such is the life.
We had an amazing team. I just want to add that we had an amazing team that worked on the movie. They gave us everything. We were so grateful for them all. Music-wise, also we did with makeup and vanity set, and they were in the US, and it went really smoothly. Everyone gave their all, and it was amazing as producers to be able to have that team that was supporting the movie, and that we're working for the same thing to make her vision on screen and stuff. So we're grateful to have that kind of to be able to have that kind of team still with low budget films.
Fantastic. Can I just ask as a follow, how big was your cast and crew total? Oh, we lost
Carlota.
Yeah.
We were kind of like around 30 people, I think. Yeah, like a normal short film. Like it was not a very, very tiny team, actually. A lot of people gave their time.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stall here for Carlota, but Evan, how big was your cast and crew total?
About the same. Yeah. I mean, our cast was somewhat big. It was like 8 characters, right. 7 actors. I was one of the hidden characters that you don't see their face. And then probably about 30 people on set or so, you know, production team and stuff. So it was a bigger thing than it might seem, for sure.
Ian, I haven't forgot about you. I just want to quickly ask both Santiago and Carlota, what about you guys? How big were your cast and crew for both of you?
I think like 20 people, something like that.
Okay. And Santiago?
I think we were about 20 or so, because we only had 2 actors and the rest was just pretty small crew. So I think, well, relatively small. Yeah.
And then so Ian, back to the original question, was there a light bulb moment or a eureka moment? And then if you answered this question first, how big was your cast and crew?
We had 3 cast and then 20 something crew, I think, maybe close to 30 as well. Yeah, similar.
3 cast and a dog. 3 cast and a dog. Yeah.
3 cast and a dog. Yeah.
Good to know. And so was there a like I say
no, not really there wasn't a huge eureka moment, but there were 2 instances during the edit where there was definitely a moment of relief. I'm like this was kind of my first time working in a large part with a child performer, and so much of the film hangs on that confrontation on the boat. So that was the main scene that we would have rehearsed in pre-production. So, you know, with child actors as well, you've got reduced shooting hours. We're out on a boat, and so it was a lot quicker. So we weren't sure if we were getting what we needed, and he could only go into the water. We could only do it once, so it was a 1-take deal. So, you know, it was only kind of when we saw the sequence come together, yeah, it's like, do we have the performance here? And then the underwater sequence, we shot the film in June, and then we picked that up not until the end of September, October. So there was this large blank placeholder where we were like, I hope that looks good. And so when we finally got to do the underwater sequence, just to see that slot in, it was a bit of okay, it works, you know. So that it wasn't as much a eureka moment, but just more like, okay, we have something here. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So how many days of shooting total did it take for you? I know you had that big block, but
it was 4 days and then a fifth for the underwater in a tank in an underwater tank. So.
And I know Sophie and Charlotte, you said it took 2 days. What about you, Carlota? How many days of shooting did you do?
It was 3 days, but we had to travel to and from Villanueva de la Ladera, so it was a bit less than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Santiago, what about you? How long did it take?
I had 2 days of the photography, and then I had an extra day for visual effects. We had a puppet we built for the film, and that was a separate day where we did like a studio shot just for that.
And then Evan, how many days?
2 days.
2 days as well. Okay, I was just curious. I mean, you guys are all around the same lengths in terms of running time. So I'm gonna end with I'm gonna end with 2 questions. Number 1, I want to ask a technical question. What did you shoot on? What camera? And what did you edit? I always ask this with short filmmakers, like what editing software or what camera did you shoot on? So I'm gonna start with Evan and go backwards. So Evan, what did you shoot on and what did you edit on?
It was Alexa Mini. And then I believe my editor was using Avid. I'm pretty sure. I didn't do any of the editing myself, but I watched it, so I'm pretty sure it was Avid.
Okay. Sophie and Charlotte, do you guys know? You may not know. I don't know.
It was I think it was the red Epic Dragon.
Red Epic Dragon for the camera.
Yeah.
And Ricard.
It was in Avid.
Okay. Santiago, what about you?
The Alexa Mini as well. And I think we shot it with some Koa and Amorphix, but then we cropped in, and we cropped it in Premiere.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Ian?
Yeah, the Alexa Mini as well, and edited.
Wow, everybody's using the Alexa Mini now. Okay.
Yeah, and it was just our DP on it, Narian Famali. He owned his own Mini, so
nice.
Good. And then edited in Avid as well.
Okay, and then Carlota.
First of all, it may break because my connection is a bit weak.
Right.
But
Okay.
The Alexa Mini and with vintage camera lenses from the 70s and in Avid.
Okay. No, I always ask because it's interesting how things shift. Like at one time Final Cut Pro, then it was Premiere, Avid, and it's always interesting what short filmmakers are using. I mean, we've accepted films shot on iPhone. We've accepted films shot on GoPros and drones and stuff like that. So it's always curious what people are using now. For me, I've always been shooting on Red lately because my partner in crime, that's what he's got. He's got a Red Dragon, and we've been shooting a lot off of that. And then primarily editing in Adobe Premiere and Final Cut is what we've been using here in the DC area. So I'm going to end because I know we're at the 55 mark, and again, I want to be respectful of your time. But where do you see yourself in the next 2 years? Because I'm not going long term because of the current Corona environment. Where do you guys see yourself in 2 years, and what would you like to achieve within those 2 years? I know you got all of you are working on different projects, but what is it that you're hoping to accomplish? If we can't really interact as we did before, what do you think you want to be able to achieve? So I'm going to start with the producers first. Sophie and Charlotte, what do you guys see yourself in 2 years, and what you're going to be able to sort of create?
Big question.
I know. I mean, do you want to have a library of all these short films? Are you guys really focusing maybe towards a feature film? What is it that you guys want to do 2 years from now? Is I guess my question.
We have many projects right now. Either short, still web series, and also feature films in development. So hopefully the situation will be better for films in the future, because right now we're all talking about that insurance and stuff like that. So we hope that we'll be able to make as many projects as possible actually in the next 2 years, and diversify, and maybe start a feature film. That will be nice too. But
very cool.
Still doing also some shorts.
What you were saying, Charlotte? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Also still doing some shorts because it's a format that we really like, and it's a very good way to start collaboration with directors, also to see the fit, to like confirm the vision and everything. So I think it's something we want to still do even in.
Yeah, we love the format.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys, you have Santiago in Montreal too, so maybe. Santiago, what about you? I'll go to you next.
I think there's like two parts to your question. One is what I want for the next couple of years, and then how do kind of the COVID affects what I want.
Right.
I think right now my ambition is to direct my first feature. I also have a small production company here in Montreal, and we've been slowly making a lot of short films over the years, and we're going into features, and we've been continually we have 2 films we're about to release this year. So that's kind of a big thing for us. And then for myself is, again, get behind a feature film and hopefully get that out there. And then as for COVID, it has colored a little bit of my kind of perception or thoughts about what to sort of spend time in and focus on to. As I mentioned before, I do have a visual effects background, and I've noticed that there's a lot of kind of interesting technology and interesting ways of sort of looking at virtual productions and animation in a new way. I've done motion capture work in the past. I've done it even on the film Milk. There was a whole thing with motion capture. Okay. And there's definitely I think for myself, something that I'm going to pursue and see if there's something to develop with, in the future, because I think the technology is getting to the state where you can actually make very low budget short films completely in your apartment. And it's actually feasible and something that could, in a couple of years, be, hold up to some of the films that I've made already in the past. So that is sort of, I'm kind of anticipating something I'm interested in the coming few years.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm gonna go to my overseas filmmakers, because things might be different in both Ireland and Spain compared to the United States, obviously. But what do you see? Where do you see yourself and things? I'll start with Carlota first.
Well, hopefully I will be making features. But the thing with COVID is that there's this global trend, or at least this is a trend in Spain, that everybody wants to make TV series. Mm. Now, you have a project for a TV series and they love you, but when they say a feature, they go, oh, I don't know. Okay. So hopefully I will be making features, and if not, I will be directing TV series.
Great answer, great answer. What about you, Ian?
Yeah, the same as everyone. I hope to be doing my first feature. I have a feature script in advanced stage of development. Obviously, that got stalled with COVID-19, but I'm hoping next year things will ease off here and things can kind of kick back up again. There's a couple of short films I'd love to do. Directing is like a muscle. I think you need to exercise it. So I'm not opposed to doing, if anyone will give me their time or their money, I'll definitely make a few more shorts as well. But yeah, that's what I'd hope to do.
Fantastic. Now, Evan, I saved you for last because I know how challenging California is at this moment. So where do you see what you'll be doing in the next 2 years if things don't improve and we're still sort of in this quasi-quarantine sort of environment? So what do you see?
Yeah. Well, so far in quarantine, I wrote a feature with a friend of mine just via literally daily Zoom meetings, like writing with like a collaborative, like online software type thing, which stalls all the time. But it went pretty well. So we're kind of in revisions on that now. And we have a few other ideas kind of in the wings. So I think focusing on writing and getting as much like material down is going to be a big thing. I think the thing that we just wrote is far too big that anybody would ever let me do, but hopefully somebody might see it and think it's fun. So I think writing, but I'd love to do another short, but my wallet is empty. So looking for full wallets anywhere to help with that. Features sound fun. I'm not sure if I have one yet that would be, within my kind of wheelhouse to do, but that would be fun. I'm also really interested in doing like comedy advertising, like spots, shooting commercials and stuff. So I would love to try to get into that more. I have a background, my day job working in that world. So I'm trying to kind of like wiggle my way into directing comedy spots as well. So, kind of open. I'm really open to whatever opportunities come.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I'm going to end with this. I think you guys are all amazing. Your films are all amazing. Please, I think as short filmmakers, we should try to network, outreach, connect, especially during these times. if there's anything I can do, or Peter, if there's anything that we can, if you guys are ever considering a political short film or feature-length film, let us know. We're here in the DC area. If things do alleviate and get better and you guys are able to travel, we'd love to meet you in person. And then by all means, I think as a community of short filmmakers, we need to sort of help each other, you know, and mentor where we can. Santiago, I may pick your ear about visual effects. I'm clueless on visual effects, so I would love to, you know, maybe reach out to you and talk about some of that. Same thing with Sophie and Charlotte in terms of production. I've been a producer, but do I really know everything about being a producer? Maybe, maybe not, you know? So we can all learn from each other. So I'm hoping, first of all, I wish you guys the best on the continued success and journey of your films. And also as your journey as a filmmaker, please be safe, healthy, vigilant. I hope to come see you guys in Montreal again, because like I said, I'd love to come during the warmer months. I've never been to Madrid or Barcelona or anywhere in Spain. Ireland, also a bucket list item. And then Evan, you know, I used to, like I said, I did internships in LA, and I miss LA as a, how do I put this, as a concept, but not as a place that I would want to settle down in. It's, sure. And again, DC's crazy too. I mean, we are here in the DC area, but I think now through this virtual environment, there's so much more we can do as filmmakers. So again, I thank you guys for your time. Peter, thank you for setting this up. Thank you guys for all agreeing to
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This talkback.
This has
been
wonderful and informative. Christian, thank you for your wonderful moderating skills and for everything you do for DC Shorts. Carlota, Sophie, Charlotte, Ian, Santiago, and Evan, thank you so much for your time in being here and for sharing your insights into your films. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
And then one last thing, I always say, promote, promote, promote. Share the links, share DC Shorts, share each other's films, tell people they have to go see all the films, you know, Milk, Pig, Low Tide, Hearth, Cerdita. Make sure you tell, it's all about self-promotion right now because we can't rely on in-person stuff anymore. So Instagram, social media, whatever, push, push, push. I hope to connect with all of you, you know, whether it be on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, please, please, please. Let's stay connected and help each other. And again, thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.